Well, hello and welcome to Material Mondays Musings. In today's session, I'm going to be sharing how I've moved this piece on. If you watched the previous week, you would have seen me start this. And we're also going to be looking at how you create figures and faces stitched. I hope you join me this episode. So stay tuned and you'll see how these came together. Okay, so in last week's episode, I was sharing how I've been working on these two pieces. Now, they have come from figures that I created. I've got them up on my Etsy store, and I'll show you how they look originally. So we'll start with this one. Okay, so the figures start like that. Now they can be coloured in a variety of different ways, and you can change the look slightly depending on the hair, or if you wanted the figure to have shorter hair, you can clip them off. So there's some ones that I have yet to work on. Now you can use paints, depending on what you print them on. You can use paints. I use alcohol markers. I find it's nice to just sit down if you want to do some colouring in or doodling, because then there's enough space that you can doodle on the figures. You can change up the figures, the features, you can add your own. There's a lot of different things that you can do with them to make them all look individual and different. And I thought for this particular one, because it's a nice easy one to cut up, it's very simple in terms of the areas. There's just some set areas, and all I did was I've numbered the areas on each of the segments, and then that's what I would cut out, which I've done in a larger piece. So I've worked, this figure is this size, so I've cut out all the bits and numbered them as needed, and then I just cut out the fabric and, as you can see, applied it to a base fabric and then set about stitching. So for this particular one, I've also added some dimension. So I've stuffed, just with fibres, thread fibres, I've stuffed some of the sections, and then I've done it in these two, and I'm going to finish off this particular one, but then I've added seeded, like a seed stitch, and it's made it firmer, so you've got the padding in there, and then I've gone over the top with some seed stitches, just very small, but it's flattened it slightly and made it firm. So that's how it is, and I liked the effect of the seed stitches and the contrast in terms of the thread and the fabric underneath. The only thing with this particular fabric is that it frays, so if you have to think about what kind of fabric you're going to use, so that if it does fray, then the piece is not going to come undone. Because I've added the seed stitches, that should potentially hold it from coming out. And what I can do is maybe just trim off any excess that was just coming away. I think this happened when I was stitching around the edge there, but as I've got the seed stitches, that's fine. And then I went over it and added some additional stitches. So they're fairly large, going in different directions. And I think what I would like is to maybe add smaller stitches. I don't want there to be so much space between them. So I might do that to this piece, or I might do another piece. So if you wanted to create a template, you would probably, it would probably be an idea to cut it from cardboard. So transfer or add this to cardboard and then cut out the shapes. So these are available on my Etsy store, and as I say, you can cut them up, you can print out as many as you want, you can colour them in different designs and add doodling and additional embellishments. And it can also be a way for you to test out, well, what colours do you want to use, say in the fabric. You might want to, or you might want to just randomly choose certain fabrics. I think if you use more natural materials, you'll get a better result just in terms of the finish. So as I say, I'm thinking about the fraying of the edges, but I guess you can, you know, do a stitch that will take care of that, or it can be part of the feature. You can make it part of the feature. It almost looks like it's part of a fringe, but yeah, what I'll need to do is just make sure that this is done. Okay, so that's that one. And as I say, it's got very simple, straightforward shapes when you cut them out and transfer it to fabric. It's fairly straightforward and easy. It can get more complicated if there are more elements to the piece. So the next one I'm working on is this one. And again, you can change up the look. And I've cut out the pieces that I needed and numbered them in the same way. So it's going to be the same kind of procedure. What I initially did was number each, like where each strand of hair, well not strand, each lock. But when I cut it out, I thought what I would do, this is what I'm working on so far. So we've got the kind of halo, we've got the hat. These two are kind of very similar in colours, so what I want to do is define it more using a different thread. And the other thing that I would do is where I've got like these lines, or the lines for the hair, I would actually stitch those in. If you wanted to, you could take, you know, the fabric and cut strips, but then, you know, it's very finicky. But again, it can be done. But you can add all of that with the stitching and try out different variations. So for this, I've got some smaller ones which I did in a variety of different colours, and again I can look at one of them and say, well, let me try this colour combination in fabric if I want. But that's the great thing about these, is that, you know, again, you can use it as a colouring page, you can use them in your art journals, and then you can transfer the design to fabric, which is another nice therapeutic activity that you can get on with, especially if, you know, you're new to slow stitching. They're very straightforward designs, and there are some simpler, more kind of less elements to have to think about in some of the other figures that are on my Etsy store, and some of them are going to be on my course platform as downloads as well. So let me show you the last piece that I took inspiration from. So this is another one. It's a lot more involved, a lot more detail, and I took inspiration for this piece from this one that I did, and I actually transferred it. I used a pen, and I added most of the elements that you can see on here. Yeah, practically all of the elements, and then added just some background here. But for this one I had done some variations, so I coloured it initially, but then with this particular design, and with all the designs, you know, you can change the look. And so let me show you some of the looks that you can get, and we'll just come in quickly here. So that's the original one, and we've got a variety of different combinations. And then I did her with like a bob style. So we've got rid of quite a lot of the hair. Again, you know, if you want to make it more simple in terms of what you want to create on fabric. And here's another one where it's a slightly different style bob. You can remove the earrings if you wanted to change the earrings to a different design. You know, any of the elements that are here can be changed, and the markings on the face there. I liked the way it came together, and I really enjoyed creating the piece, and it's one that I'm going to do again, just do a different variation. This one, the fabric it was on was a wax resist piece, so this piece was wax resisted and dyed, and then I put it in the sewing machine and did a lot of stitching around it. Once I put the figure on, I did the black stitching, and then I went round it with the sewing machine. So I went round all of the locks, the face, just with a white thread. And then what I did was add colour using paint, fabric paints. So I added it to the locks, to the neck, this colour blue. You could still see the wax resist underneath, but it was nice to highlight some of the colours just to bring them out. And then I went in and did the main stitching, and most of it is just kind of like a straight stitch, and I've just gone around and filled up the area. Now there are other stitches that you can use to fill up the areas, but that's the one I did. And then I added some beading for the earrings there, and we've got some crystals and beads on the neck. And then it was finished off with a border which has also been wax resist. So I really enjoyed putting this together, and that's the fabric, the waxed resist fabric. It's faded slightly. Where I'd hung it up, we had some light coming in on the window, but I'm still, you know, I'm still happy with it. And things like this, especially if you hand dyed it, and you know, you don't want them sitting in the sun, you might want to put them behind glass to protect them from dust. We get a lot of Sahara dust, and and then, you know, obviously it's really the sun. So you can check my Etsy store and my course platform. I will leave the links. I'll be doing a short series on, you know, I'll be finishing off this one anyway, but showing you how even with the one design, you can change up the effects on fabric, cutting it from different fabric, doing different stitches. You know, you can get a whole lot of different looks. And I hope that you check out some of the figures. You might see something that you like, that you want to try. And, you know, you can always even create your own, you know, create your own face, create a simple design, and then cut that out and add to fabric. I do have a lot of other ones. Again, they're more kind of involved, but over time I will be sharing how you can make fabric figures and designs from all of the pieces that I have. So I'm thankful that you could join me for Material Musings, and you could see some of the work that I've been doing with the fabric and the figures and faces, and I look forward for you to join me next time. So take care for now.